Hello. All right. So I talked to you quite a bit about humility, and it can be difficult teaching in a way, and I don't want you to take it wrong. So I'm going to talk to you today about magnanimity, this other virtue that really helps us to see what true humility is. Because if humility taken wrong, any of these parts of the degrees taken wrong outside of the proper Christian context and our understanding of the faith, and Jesus as our physician of our soul, will lead us astray. And false humility is terrible because we can become proud of being humble. Did you know that? You can actually be proud of being humble, which would just destroy humility. So it can eat itself, and you wouldn't even know. You would be thinking that you're actually winning the humility battle while you're losing it. So let's listen close to the proper criteria. Remember, Teresa of Avila gave us a little bit that true humility doesn't agitate us. It makes us less critical of others in John of the Cross, right? That's what he will give us. And it doesn't make us shrink from doing great works. We don't cross our arms. We strive to do something. And so it should expand us, give us peace and calm. True humility is actually joyous. Even though you might think yourself the vilest of all sinners, incapable of anything, you'll actually find joy. That's the paradox. Now, we find in Thomas Aquinas, I have this guy, Joseph Pieper. He's a philosopher of the 20th century who commented on Thomas Aquinas. This is Joseph Pieper, the four cardinal virtues. He's going to talk about the cardinal virtues. And one of those, of course, is going to talk about temperance. And under temperance is humility. And part of humility, it has to be and coexist with magnanimity, or what he calls high-mindedness. So let's look at this. What is this high-mindedness that he speaks of? He says that, hang on one second. He says that nothing lights the way to a proper understanding of humility more tellingly than this. Humility and high-mindedness not only are not mutually exclusive, but actually are neighbors and akin, and both are equally opposed to either pride or pusillanimity. What is meant by high-mindedness or magnanimity? It is the striving of the mind toward great things. High-minded is the man who feels the potentiality of greatness and prepares himself for it. The high-minded or magnanimous man is, in a certain sense, selective. He will not be accessible to every approach, but will keep himself for the greatness to which he feels akin. Above all, high-mindedness is demanding as to honor. The high-minded man strives toward that which deserves the highest honor. In the Summa Theologia, we read, "If a man should despise honor to the extent that he would not take care to do what is deserving of honor, this would be blameworthy." End quote. On the other hand, the high-minded man is not crushed by dishonor. He disregards it as something beneath him. The high-minded man despises everything small-minded. He would never prize another man so highly as to do anything improper for his sake. Fearless frankness is the hallmark of high-mindedness. Nothing is further from it than to suppress truth from fear. Flattery and dissimulation are equally removed from the high-minded. The high-minded man does not complain, for his heart is impervious to external evil. His high-mindedness implies an unshakable firmness of hope, an actually challenging assurance, and the perfect peace of a fearless heart. The high-minded man bows neither to confusion of the soul, nor to any man, nor to fate, but to God alone. I think that last piece is pretty important, because what we're finding here is that the potentiality for greatness isn't simply and only in one's nature by itself. By ourselves, we're incapable of anything. But if we prepare ourselves for it, we strive for something truly great, then we rest on the actualization of a capacity within us that God has placed there and that God fulfills. And we bow to no one but God. So the magnanimous really, this on the humility side, apart from him, I can do nothing. On the magnanimity side, in him I can do everything. In him I can do anything. So what is the capacity, this potentiality for greatness? What is the greatness? God himself. Pax Day, that we have a capacity for the beatific vision, that we could have capacity to participate in the life of God in heaven. And so we should strive for that. And so a false humility will not have magnanimity. It will want to fold its arms, not do anything, and all in the name of humility. Or it might become really critical of others because they're not humble enough, or whatever it might be. It's important to strive for humility, to ask for humility. It is one of those virtues that God, we're told by St. Louis de Montfort, loves most, and that Mary, it's one of her hallmark virtues, is humility, the humility of the handmaid of the Lord. And so she'll communicate that to us in this exchange that we have with her in our consecration. But at the same time, mark out, do you have magnanimity? Is it the case that you have the kind of assurance in God that you can be bold? I remember being frustrated with myself at times for being so timid with, say, a boss or a manager at a job when I was growing up. Whenever every day I was getting up and talking to the manager of the universe, and then I'd go to work, and I would, it was flattery and these other things like, why do I lack magnanimity here? And you pray for that. You pray for it. You strive for it, and it might require that you get a real sense of your dignity as a Christian and say, you know what, I've got to do what's right, and I'll do it with all frankness and a certain kind of boldness. Now, at the very end of the story of a soul, Therese of Lisieux, another doctor of the church here and Carmelite, she marks herself out as one of the hallmarks of her approach is audacity, which you might just think of as extreme magnanimity. Above all, I imitate Mary Magdalene's behavior, she says, her surpassing, or rather her loving audaciousness that charmed Jesus' heart and captivates mine. Yes, I feel it. Even when I might have on my conscience all the sins that can be committed, I would go with a heart broken with repentance to throw myself into Jesus' arms, because I know how much he cherishes the prodigal son who comes back to him. It's not because God in his kind mercy has preserved my soul from mortal sin that I rise and go to him in confidence and love. This is the end. These are the very last words of the story of a soul, that her confidence doesn't reside on herself or sinlessness. It's deep humility. She'd be the vilest of all sinners, and she would still have the extreme audacity of a Mary Magdalene, the extreme magnanimity to know that in God, he can do all things within her. So, I hope this helps, and I hope that it stirs you a little bit to strive boldly, to be humble on one end and magnanimous on the other. It's not some sort of moderated in between. It's the extremes of both held in tension that make for saints.